everyone, it's Bethany and Kristen, and we are talking about a very juicy topic today. You can live without sex, but you can't live without true intimacy. I don't know if you've ever heard
What
that
does
before.
that mean?
What does that even mean? Why are we talking about this? It's a really interesting topic, but I think it's actually something every single woman, whether you're single, every woman, whether you're single or married, needs to hear this because it's truly life-changing. Before we jump into that, I want to make sure you're aware of these freebies that we are giving away. So if you want free, incredible content in your hands, I got some goods for you, girlfriend. So we have this brand new Set My Heart 7-day devotional for drawing close to Jesus. It's absolutely amazing. Look how gorgeous. And then it's a beautiful 7-day devotional that you can print up or do straight on like your phone or your iPad or computer. And you can get this free by joining us over on patreon.com/GirlDefined, where you just help support with $1 or $2 per month. And it's just a way for you to say, yes, I love this YouTube channel. I love what y'all are doing. I love that y'all talk about these hard things like sex and intimacy from a Christian perspective. Keep going. Then join us. You can click the link below. You'll also get access to all of these guides plus more every month. There are like dozens that are available. How to discern a guy's true character, a simple, practical, and biblical guide. So we have tons of free resources specifically for our patron family. So if you want these along with more, click the link below, join the fam, patreon.com/GirlDefined.
So the reason we picked this topic is because this is actually an Instagram post.
Show them, it's so cute.
I just want to say though that the most recent podcast that you did was all about this topic. And so one of the quotes that we posted on Instagram was this, if you can see it. I know sometimes it's kind of hard with the glare, but it says, you can live without sex, but you can't live without true intimacy. And it was so interesting after this was posted, and the caption, which we'll unpack, explains more of what in the world this actually means, because it's kind of a weird statement. So many of you were commenting and just saying, wow, this is so beautiful. I'm single and I've never thought of it this way. We had lots of you giving clapping hands and saying, this is a message we all need to hear. Very powerful. God bless you. Love this. So true. Our intimacy with God is what we truly need. And just the thing that I noticed the most was that so many of you were saying, this is so beautiful. And one girl even said, this brought tears to my eyes. This understanding of the fact that we can live without sex, but we can't live without true intimacy. We were made for intimacy. And what in the world does that mean?
They're two completely different things. So if you want to listen to the podcast to take a deep dive on all of this, it's the GirlDefined show. It was the most recent episode. Can I be satisfied if I never have sex? So we're going there this week. We'll link it below. But I feel like we should read the caption to this post so that this is like a very small condensed version of everything that we discussed on the podcast. And then this will be like the medium version.
Yeah.
But in an Instagram post, here's what we had to say about why you need true intimacy.
Yeah. What if I told you that your sex drive was actually designed to point you toward a deeper spiritual relationship? You'd probably look at me like I was a little crazy, right? Like you probably are now. Like, this is taking it a little
or
too
turning
far.
the volume down so other people can't hear what you're listening to.
Well, as crazy as it sounds, and I'll agree with you on that, when we first heard this, we were like, what? It's actually true. God had an amazing plan and purpose in mind when he created your sexual design. From the first humans, Adam and Eve, until now, sexuality wasn't a random act of creation. It was an intentional and integral part of God's greater mission. Everything about your sexual design, from your sex drive, your inner longings, your desire for intimacy, and inclination toward marriage, were given to you by God to ultimately point you back to him. Sexual intimacy was created by God to give us an earthly picture for all of us to see of what his powerful and intimate love looks like for us. That's incredible. Marriage and sex were never meant to ultimately satisfy us. They were designed to point us upward to the only one who can fully satisfy our souls. So rather than getting stuck on these earthly metaphors, we need to look past these physical gifts and allow them to point us to God, to the God who created them. Girl, you were made for intimacy. Whether you're single or married, your sexual desires were never meant to be the true source of fulfillment in your life. Your sexual desires were designed to ultimately drive you toward the only relationship that truly satisfies your soul. You were created by an incredible God who loves you and wants to be in an intimate covenant relationship with you. He wants to know you deeply and love you more fully than any human ever could. You can live without sex, but you can't live without true intimacy. His covenant love is what our souls truly need.
And I love this so much because this is a message, like I said, if you're single, if you're married, if we don't understand this, we're going to get everything wrong, because we are going to assume like, oh, if I can just have sex, or if I can just get married and have sex, that's going to solve my problems. That's going to satisfy me on the deepest level. Or if you're married and you thought that and you're like, why am I still not satisfied? What's going on? This is the answer. It's the fact that you were created ultimately in the image of God, and you were created to have a deep, all satisfying, complete relationship with him. And that's why it's possible for you to thrive and have like complete joy in life as a single, as well as a married, because you don't need sex to be involved in that to really thrive and have a deep relationship with God. And honestly, the best sex in marriage comes when you have a true understanding of the greater picture, the bigger picture. And that's actually something we talk about in our book, Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart. If this topic intrigued you, like, girl, grab this book. Single, married, it doesn't matter. This book is for every woman. And this actually comes from everything we've been talking about this week comes from chapter 7, Girl, you were made for intimacy. And I just think of the comments like, beautiful, so well said. This makes me want to cry. Like, this chapter is going to make you want to really cry that, because it just takes a deep dive into just God's love for us, and then his call to love him back in that deep, all-knowing way. And I can say for both of us now, I know we both feel the same way, having been on the side of singleness and now having been on the side of marriage, that our married lives now experiencing sex within marriage are only really as good as our relationship with God is. And they're only as good as like our true understanding of why God created sex within marriage. So it's like getting married isn't like the answer, you know? Like, I look back now when I was single and I used to think like, oh, if I just had that man, if I just had sex, if I just had, like, it would solve all my problems. And now I'm married and I'm experiencing that, and I'm like, oh, this is just a picture of something greater, something heavily, which you kind of unpacked in that post.
It's pointing us toward our true need. And so it's really awesome, because it's like God gave us two gifts. He actually gave humans the gift of sexuality and of sexual intimacy, and shows us in the garden how he designed the man and the woman, put sex within the covenant of marriage. But all of that, it's an earthly gift and it's beautiful, but it was never intended for us to stop there as humans, to say, this is the ultimate. If I could just get there to marriage, to sex, then I would be fully satisfied. From the beginning, God is saying, I'm giving you these good gifts to enjoy, but to also show you that there's something much deeper, much more intimate, much more satisfying that can only be found in your relationship with me, your creator, the God who loves you, who knows your days, who, as Psalm 139 says, formed you in your mother's womb and has, knows every hair that's on your head. Like, that is a God who's saying ultimate satisfaction is found in intimacy with me. So come to me. I will give you what your soul truly needs. Don't get stuck on the gift, on the metaphor. Enjoy it for my glory in the right context, but always remember, as you're enjoying that earthly gift, that you were made for something so much more. And in fact, sex and marriage is only an earthly thing. It's a picture pointing us to, I love all the yeses I'm getting.
Well, because it's like, we're used to saying these things. I mean, we wrote a whole book about it, but you don't hear this out there, you know? And especially on YouTube, we're here to bring it.
These gifts are only temporary, and that's the crazy thing, is whether you're single or married, and you're single longing for intimacy, longing for marriage, remember that whichever side of the coin you're on, these are only temporary gifts anyways. They're metaphors, because one day when we die and we get to heaven, we are going to be united with Christ. He says we, the church, are his bride. He's the groom. We're going to be united with him in the ultimate wedding feast for all of eternity, fully satisfied in him. There will be no more earthly marriage, because that picture will be fulfilled with us in Christ in heaven. And so it's only a temporary picture anyways. It's not meant to satisfy us now. It's not what we're going to be engaged in all of eternity. It's our relationship with God that will ultimately satisfy us then and now, and that's what sex is pointing us toward.
All right, so I want to take the deep dive on this even more, but that's why we have the podcast, the GirlDefined show, is so we can spend 45, 50 minutes really digging deep. So if you want to dig deeper, go there. And then if you're like, wow, I didn't know y'all posted about this kind of stuff on Instagram, that's where you can engage in these sorts of conversations. So if you're like, I really want to talk about this, if you're on Instagram, awesome. And if you're watching this on YouTube, head over to our Instagram account, @GirlDefined, where you can engage in this conversation and share your thoughts, because we know this is like a very like countercultural mindset. Like the world doesn't even acknowledge that God created sex, that we were created in his image, that we were created for him. So obviously this is something that we as Bible believing Christians see very differently, but I think it's so telling that, you know, in the world you're always after that next thing, you know, like, you know, you're after that next marriage or that next boyfriend or that next sexual experience. It's never enough. And until we acknowledge that true longing, that true need, that void in our life, like you said, to find complete intimacy and satisfaction with Christ, like we're never going to find it here. And ultimately, like you said, it's going to go away one day in heaven. We will have complete satisfaction in Christ. So single or married, this message is for you. Go leave your thoughts on our Instagram account if you're there, or head over there at GirlDefined. I want to hear what you think about this. Do you think this is true or not? Let's have a little discussion in the comments. We'll see you there.